Another episode of The Crossover with your host, Brian and Ravi. Ravi, you got anything to say to the folks, man? We're post-trade deadline, man.
Post-trade deadline. We are in the home stretch. We got about 28 to 30 games left in the season. Months to go. Yeah. So today we're gonna, we're just gonna break down these trades and see what it means for some of the contenders out there.
For sure. Let's see here. So we're gonna go through a couple of the big trades and see, kind of give our thoughts on it. So let's go with the most obvious one. Goran Dragic going to Miami. He and his brother head to Miami for a little party. Goran and Zoran. For Danny Granger, Phoenix gets Danny Granger and John Salmons. Miami's 2 picks from 2017 and 2019, so they get the first round pick for 2017 and 2019. The Pelicans get in by getting Norris Cole, who killed the Raptors the other day, by the way, and Justin Hamilton and Sean Williams. So what's your thoughts, Ravi?
Well, actually, what? I think the Heat was one of Dragic's. It's one of his preferred destinations. Mm-hmm. I think it was the Heat, the Lakers, and New York is what he had on his list. I think he probably got the best team out of the 3. He's a playoff contender in the East. Mm-hmm. I think if you team up Dragic with a healthy Wade, we obviously know Bosh is out for the season. But Deng and Whiteside, I think, if that all comes together, like I'm envisioning it coming together, mm-hmm. I think these guys can be a really dangerous team for one of the higher seeded guys in the playoffs. And I think they'll be interesting to. Pardon me?
Even without Bosh?
I think so. Obviously that changes it a lot.
Yeah.
But I still think they can give us, I don't expect them to upset anybody, but I can see them giving some teams some problems. Yeah. Especially teams that have problem defending athletic or, a quick point guard.
Yeah,
because I believe is Miami 7th right now. If I'm not mistaken.
7th at the moment. They have so little bench at the moment. I know in the playoffs you don't need a ton of bench, but you need some bench.
You need some bench.
And without Bosh, man, there's no front court resist. There's no front court threat. And I think I could definitely be, if I was a Miami fan, licking my chops on a pick and roll scenario or pick and pop with Bosh and Dragic. That would just been lethal. Now with no Bosh. I can focus all my attention on Wade. I don't know, man. I don't know. I think they're a first round exit in this case now without Bosh. The deal I think in the future is great for Miami. Overall, they got the best player in the deal, so they win the deal.
I think
gave up nothing really for it.
Yeah, and sources around the league, from what I've been reading this past week, is that all signs point to that they expect Dragic to re-sign.
Yeah.
At the end of the year too. So.
So I just think that I think Miami wins the deal. Unfortunately, we wish Bosh the best in his family. I've always been a fond fan of Bosh, even from his days in TO. Never understood the booing thing. That's a whole other thing with Toronto fans. I don't get you all with that booing crap. But I always had love for Bosh. Who's here. He's a bright guy, obviously, very insightful fella. I always enjoy because he's one of the few athletes that always has something interesting to say, and he's a cerebral player. And I always appreciate his game, even when he's taking heat with the big 3. I was like, you know what? After LeBron, he may be the most important player on that team. And Miami's gonna find out real fast right now of that importance.
And I think you and I agreed on that point last couple of years in terms of after LeBron, who the second most important guy on the team there was.
Yeah. So we'll move on now. Let's go to I guess the next biggest trade that happened. So in Oklahoma City, we knew there were gonna be players. They had to get Reggie Jackson out of there. Reggie Jackson making it quite clear he didn't want to be there anymore. Not enough ball for everybody in that team. So, Reggie Jackson comes to my Detroit Pistons. And as on face value, and in this case, OKC, let me finish up the deal before we get the Detroit side. OKC gets Enes Kanter from Utah, Steve Novak, DJ Augustine, Kyle Singler, and I think 2 puppies as well, too. They got pretty much everything. And Utah ended up getting Grant Jarrett, Kendrick Perkins, and the draft rights to center Tibor Police 2017 second round pick for the Pistons and a future first rounder from the Thunder. Now, that future first rounder for the Thunder could be very interesting. I don't know. I believe that future first rounder, is that 2017? Do they have a year yet for that? I don't think they have a year yet for that, based on at least what I see here on NBA.com.
I believe it's a 2017 pick.
Okay. Because if it was a little later down the road, like 2019, I mean, a few fellas decide they're going to go other places. 2019 pick don't look so bad. So as of 2017, Westbrook would still be under contract. So even if Durant happened to go, Westbrook would still be under contract, and they'll be a competitive team still.
Well, I mean, you're assuming that Westbrook is not the one to go, right?
No, what I'm saying is by 2017, because I think Westbrook's deal a year later, right?
Is it a year later?
Yeah, it's a year later. So he'll still be on the roster at that point. So I still think it's an interesting first round pick that they took from the Thunder. I'm surprised the Thunder just gave up on that, considering how they're building from the draft. I'm going to get to Detroit. Okay, as the Piston aficionado here, as much as it's great to get the best player in the draft, I don't get this deal. This deal to me smells a bit of desperation for SVG. This is where you have when one person handles two jobs. This looks like Coach Van Gundy told GM Van Gundy he wants players now, instead of thinking of the long-term prospect of the Pistons. Because I don't know what's going to happen. This is assuming that even they get in the playoffs, which is still a stretch. They're like 4 games out, I think, right now. Something like that. Yeah, that's still a lot of work to get in there. Charlotte's starting to play a bit better. Miami, obviously, with the deal too, I assume they're not going to just fold up their tent. So you're assuming you're going to get in. Even if you don't, then so even if you do get in, you get knocked out in the first round. What's going to happen in the offseason? One of these dudes got to go, because Reggie Jackson is not sticking around to be playing with Brandon Jennings. He already dealt with that situation with Westbrook. He ain't dealing with that. Yeah. And at least with Westbrook, you can say, okay, maybe in his mind, he thinks he's the best player on the team. But that said, at least you can say, okay, Westbrook's a dude that puts up numbers in this case and has been like an all-star and an MVP of the all-star game. He goes, Brandon Jennings, you kidding me? I'm sharing the ball with him. So somebody got to go. I don't know how it's going to work out, but Stan Van Gundy's got a lot of work on this offseason when it comes to that.
Yeah, I mean, I think that was definitely a confusing move. I agree with you on the part of the Pistons. Looking at it from OKC's point of view, I mean, I think they're the obvious winners. I think it gives them a lot more depth.
Yeah.
I think Enes Kanter is he's a good double guy.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he's a bit weak defensively.
True.
But I think he's a good double guy to plug into the and I think he's had a couple of good games I think since the trade.
Yeah.
So he's had a few good games already. And I mean, like I said, with the depth, especially with the news of Durant going to be out for a little while, I think that helps them. And I think they've kind of put a little bit of space between them and the Suns and the Pelicans now for that 8th spot.
Well, yeah. Just on a point on Phoenix, since you're talking so much about the Suns last week in this case here.
Yeah, look, man.
Yeah, exactly.
What a difference a week makes, Brian. What a difference a week makes.
Yeah, that's what I thought. And I think my point is with Phoenix, which I said last week in this case, Phoenix was with the squat, and I think Phoenix knew they were with the squat, and pretty much said, "Here, let me grab my towel here and let me toss it this way," because they were.
Man, done. I was not looking forward to this podcast because
I think I forgot.
After all the love I gave them last week, the basketball gods came into play this week, Brian.
Smack it down on your guy.
Oh boy, did they ever?
Yeah. So
did they ever?
So even Phoenix didn't believe that Phoenix was going anywhere with these deals.
Wow. Yeah.
Anyway, let's move on to the next deal. I think we're going to do this in a 2-parter. So we'll wrap up with the third deal when we get to the second half of the deal. Speaking of Phoenix, let's get their deal, then we'll cut it off. We'll do a part 2, and we'll check right here on the channel. So here we go. Phoenix gets Brandon Knight, Kendall Marshall. Poor Kendall Marshall. He's all over the place. Didn't Kendall Marshall get drafted by Phoenix? I swear he got drafted by Phoenix. But yeah, we can look that up another time. But I'm pretty sure he got drafted by them. He got shipped out. But anyhow,
we'll have to get our stats guy on that.
Stats guy, our stat boy. Milwaukee gets Michael Carter Williams, Tyler Ennis. So good Canadian boy heads back close to the East. Miles Plumlee. So the Plumlees now both in the Eastern Conference, and Philadelphia gets the 2015 first-round pick from the Lakers. There's so much to say in this draft, in this trade. It's not even funny. Okay. Oh, jeez. I'm going to go with Philadelphia first. Okay. If someone can explain what the heck Philadelphia is doing.
I've been saying the exact same thing. I'm looking at, I mean, and Philadelphia is one of those teams where they made multiple moves at the deadline, and not one of them make any sense to me.
Here's the thing: Philly's actually been playing pretty decent and competitive lately. Like they're starting to get some gelling going on. I don't understand what their deal is with MCW. You draft a guy that you have no confidence in. I don't get that. He was rookie of the year,
Yeah.
and like I mean, like fair enough. He hasn't had the best season so far this year, but it's Philadelphia who's had a great season. So my point is to give up the guy just like that after playing like half a season. I just don't get what they're doing there. And then for them just to get another first round draft pick, like they need more. They have like about a third of the draft right now coming up.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, at some point, you can acquire assets, acquire first-round picks, but at some point, you're going to have to start, turning these into tangible assets, actual players. And I mean, like you said, you have the reigning rookie of the year, and you get rid of him. So having all these picks is all fine and good, but you have to translate that into something at some point.
Yeah, true. Well, you heard it here first. You're going to hear it first time, man. I'm saying it right now. Philly Knicks deal. Draft picks, all these draft picks are collecting for Carmelo Anthony. They'll throw in a few other bodies in there, some warm bodies in this case, they make the deal work. But trust me, that's the only way, the reason why I see Philadelphia collecting all these draft picks. They must be looking to make a big trade for a superstar that's in the middle of their contract. That's the only reason why they could be doing it.
I hope so. I mean, it says a lot when you have players on the actual team at the deadline. I think if you look at Joel Embiid's timeline on the deadline, he tweeted, "Someone tell me what's going on. Please help."
Yeah, that was priceless. What do you think? What do you think of the Phoenix situation, man?
The Phoenix situation. Man, I think they're just really starting to. I'm disappointed in the Phoenix situation. What's that?
Well, talk about downgrade. I mean, I like Brandon Knight. I had him on my All-Star team, so I'm not really disparaging Brandon Knight. I think it's the culmination of Brandon Knight and Kendall Marshall.
Yeah, you know, it's you can tell these guys are like you said in the opening. They realized that they weren't really going to do anything here. And they were just really trying to put together some pieces for next few seasons. But we'll see how it plays out over there. I mean, they have a young core of guys, and the key thing is you want guys that want to be there. You want guys that gel together. Right. So we'll see how it plays out for Phoenix.
All right, man. So we'll leave it at that. Where can the good folks find you, Ravi? By the way, we're gonna have part 2 on this because I said there's more to discuss after this. So where can the good folks find you, Ravi?
At Mr. Ravi_Porvita.
And they can find me at Beyond Locker Room, short for RM. Check us out. Look in the link above to get part 2 of this. And we're going to discuss part 2, a whole bunch of other goodies coming up in the trade, man.